many people may not know, but 3D printing was used to print the nasal swabs. Singapore, like the rest of the world, is facing unprecedented challenges and problems. Food security, aging society, climate change, clean energy, water, just to name a few. We want to train our students to be able to not only understand the problems, but be able to deliver solutions to make a better world by design. Second, a typical EPD student would have undergone 25 to 30 projects through the 4 years at SUTD, and we believe the hands-on, the opportunity to work on project will allow them to understand all the tools at their disposal, but also be not afraid of working with their hands-on. Engineering Design Innovation is our flagship program where we put our students through both the understanding of design to solve a problem, but also through a project where hands-on is involved. So they take their design through modeling, through conception, and finally to realization in the form of a prototype. Beyond engineering, we also want our students to be trained in other aspects like even ethical issues. Sometimes a better solution need not to be just technical or helping the company to make profits, but also looking at the impact to society. I want to illustrate the example of Professor Michino Hashimoto. He has done 3D printing of chocolate and milk. Now he has actually implemented his work right now of practical use to Kutikot Hospital, where patients suffering from stroke or dementia need a diet that is puriform, which will not choke the patients. We have just launched a new track this year. It is called Beyond Industry 4.0. In the last 300 years, Industry 1.0 have moved on to 4.0. In the first two, where it took about 100 years, the last has actually taken only 50 years. You can see it's compressed, and 5.0 could be upon us anytime, and which is why we call our new track Beyond Industry 4.0. And it's important for our students, a new breed of engineers who will go out there and transform the industry to understand all the competencies. So it's not about the book knowledge that you learn, but the attitude that you show, the mindset. The values and attributes that we inculcate in our students extends beyond what they learn. With the rapid change in science and technology, what they have learned in university in 5 to 10 years would possibly have become obsolete. So it's important for them to have the ability to learn, relearn, and unlearn. To question the norm is also something we inculcate in our students when they approach a problem. And this is what makes SUTD graduates unique. I am Professor Chua Chi Kai, Head of Pillar for Engineering Product Development. If you aspire to be a design engineer and solve real-world problems with product innovation, join us.
Hi everyone, welcome to our SUTD Virtual Open House, and thank you for joining us today for this live talk with the EPD Pillar. My name is JJ. I'm a final year student from the EPD Pillar, and I will be your MC for this live talk session. As a quick introduction, EPD stands for Engineering Product Development, and is one of the 5 pillars in SUTD. The EPD Pillar prepares our students to conceptualize, design, implement, and operate innovative technology-intensive products in areas such as electronics, energy, machinery, transportation, and much more. Students in the EPD pillar can potentially specialize in 7 different tracks, from mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computer engineering, robotics, healthcare engineering design, and the self-directed program in which students get to mix and match courses from different tracks. And finally, we have the recently added Beyond Industry 4.0 track. For this EPD live talk, we will be speaking to some of the EPD faculty and students that we have here with us, as well as answering some of the questions that you guys might have from the audience. Through this session, we hope to share more about the EPD pillar and hopefully convince you, the audience, that it is a degree program worth joining SUTD for. So to start us off, let us have a quick conversation with some of our EPD faculty. We have a diverse faculty here in EPD, from renowned universities and from a variety of research areas. So may I get our professors here today to introduce yourselves? Maybe we can start with our head of pillar, Prof. Chua Chi Kai.
Hi, I'm Prof. Chua. Very good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. I look after the pillar, engineering product development, and I have faculty, administrators, and of course students, both undergrad and postgrads.
Thanks so much, Prof. Chua. Next, maybe we can have our associate head of pillar, Prof. Lo Hong Yi.
Thank you, JJ. Hello, my name is Hong Yi. I'm an associate pillar head for EPD. I came from material science background. I'm also currently heading the Digital Manufacturing and Design Research Center in SUTD.
Thanks so much, Prof. Hong Yi. And finally, we have our last prof here with us today, Prof. Tan Mei Chi.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. So I'm Mei Chi with the Engineering Product Development pillar. Basically also a material scientist by training, but since then, have been trying to basically gear the work that I do in research more towards product design and development. Happy to be here today to share with you more about EPD.
Thanks so much, Prof. Mei Chi. So maybe to get the ball rolling for this live talk, maybe I could start us off with a question for our head of pillar, Prof. Chua. Just now we mentioned that EPD has a lot of different areas that students can potentially specialize in, from mechanical, electrical, healthcare, robotics, even computer engineering. But one of the most recent changes that we see in our EPD track structures, the addition of a new track called Beyond Industry 4.0. Could you share with us more on this new track and why it was introduced?
Okay, if you have followed the technological evolution, we today are in the transformation 4.0. So it all started about 350 years ago with the advent of steam engine and went on to mass production lines for production of parts like even the automotive, and then to the internet revolution and what it is today, the digital revolution. In the first revolution, I think it took about 90 to 100 years, and same thing with Industry 2.0. When it came to Industry 3.0, the time was half to about 50 years, and right now we are in the midst of 4.0. And we know that this number of years will string even further, so it probably won't take another 50 years. When we started this track, we named it Beyond Industry 4.0, knowing that going forward 5.0 or even 6.0 will be upon us very soon. So we wanted something which will last us for quite some years. We always believe in preparing our graduates for the industry. So one of the things, we know the industry is changing rapidly. The transformation are creating a lot of new industries, meaning new jobs will come in, some old jobs will disappear. And therefore, to prepare our graduates for the industry, to make them industry ready, we spoke to many companies before we launched this track. And we knew that this track is going to produce engineers, a new breed of engineers which will be ready and will be absorbed, in fact, readily demanded by industry. Second, we also know that we have to prepare our graduates to be future ready. So it's important for us always to be able to have a grasp of all the interesting technology. Probably have seen them, AI, robotics, 3D printing, Internet of Things, so on and so forth. So we want our students to be ready for the future by understanding not only each of these competency areas, but even the interface of this kind of technology. Last but not least, we believe that our students should also be global ready, knowing what is happening around the world. And in this new track, we have actually tied up with many universities in Europe, in America, as well as in Asia. So our students will have a chance to take courses in Industry 4.0 in all these universities in lieu of the courses here. And we believe in this track, students will really be able to go out there and transform the world, transform the industry. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Prof. Chua. I think you in your sharing, you mentioned that Beyond Industry 4.0 will be important, and looking at the different technologies involved will be critical for our students as well. Another change that we see nowadays is really the increased amount of resources being put into developing AI, which is a key component of Industry 4.0. Maybe I can direct this next question to Prof. Hong Yi instead. Maybe you could share with us what is being done to infuse AI, which is a key component in the future and nowadays, in the SUTD curriculum and in research being done here.
Sure, thank you, JJ. Indeed, AI has become an integral part of advanced engineering education and research. Generally, AI in engineering refers to using AI tools or software for engineering analysis, for recognizing data pattern, as well as automating design process. So as an example, a machine learning algorithm can be and have been used to automatically detect variation in manufacturing processes, and from there, automatically correct for such variations. So another example of machine learning applications in engineering is in design process. By recognizing and analyzing a bunch of data that's available in engineering domain generally, the pattern recognitions allows predictions of performance, allows for development of new models, and from there, decisions are made automatically by these software. So I think it is, needless to say, AI is highly relevant to Industry 4.0. So kind of to complement what Prof. Chai said about our new track in Industry 4.0, all EPD students, regardless of the tracks, by the time they graduate, would have taken one course related to AI. It could be the basic in AI, it could be data analytic, or machine learning. So I guess in a nutshell, I would say that in EPD, our curriculum have been adapting to the very quickly evolving industry landscape out there. I think it's important that in engineering field, students are equipped with the basic of AI and how these tools are used in design, in product design, in manufacturing, and in engineering in general.
Thanks so much, Prof. Hong Yi. As an EPD student myself, I cannot help but resonate with what both Prof. Chua and Prof. Hong Yi have said. Maybe to share a little bit more about the EPD curriculum, maybe we can ask from an EPD prof standpoint, we can understand a little more about the curriculum. Maybe we can ask Prof. Mei Chi, as a professor who has taught quite a few of us here in EPD, could you explain how classes are typically taught within the EPD pillar as well as in SUTD?
Yes, sure, no problem. Thanks, JJ. So I've been basically hanging around in SUTD for some time, nearly a decade now. It has been a big change, even for myself as a faculty member. Because, for example, one of the ways that when we go in to teach the class, first, especially in the first year classes, you don't go in to teach alone. All right? Usually I'm going in to teach with another colleague, but this colleague will be coming from a very different discipline. So take, for example, now I'm teaching a design thinking class in the first year. I'm actually teaching it together with another faculty member from the architecture pillar. So with this, we can actually expose our students to at least two different perspectives about design, even in the first year. Moving on, as we progress to the pillar years, we continue this tradition where we have faculty members coming in from different so-called traditional disciplines like mechanical engineers, teaching together with the material scientists, or the mechanical engineers teaching together with the electrical engineers on one common subject. All right. So in this way, students can really get different perspectives of the same project that they could be working on. Why do I emphasize that? Because like you can see in the backdrop here, all right, a lot of the curriculum is centered on developing projects to address real-world problems, or at least a part of the real-world problems in EPD. The students, I'm sure, they will share with you later about how they spend countless sleepless nights working on any of these projects, together as a group, all right? So they, I'm sure they will share with you about, their lunches, their dinners, their sleepless nights. But I think the other thing that is very unique here is when they do work in a group, just like the faculty who is not working separately in individual, specific disciplines, our students will have at least one class in EPD where they have to work together with, students from either different pillars or different tracks. So for example, for one of their projects, they could be working between the mechanical and the electrical engineering students, all right, to solve and address one specific problem, which is kind of like the way it is going to be like in the real world. So that is, the unique aspect about the SUTD curriculum, not just about, the types of subjects that we offer, which is constantly evolving, but how we go about delivering these classes is basically, sharing with you guys how to approach a problem which is usually multifaceted, right, and addressing a holistic solution. So I think, hopefully that addresses at least a few of the key highlights about our curriculum here. Over to you, JJ.
I think that was that addressed more than just the key highlights. That was a pretty comprehensive understanding of our EPD curriculum. I think we've heard quite a bit from our professors, and maybe now we can shift some attention to the students and alumni that we have here with us. Hopefully we can get our EPD students and alumni to shed some light on how life in the EPD pillar is like. Maybe we can start by inviting our students and alumni to introduce themselves. Can I invite Andrew, at the end, our alumni, to start us off?
Oh, hello everyone. My name is Andrew. I'm currently a product manager at GovTech, Government Technology Agency, under the Capability Center of Sensors and IoT.
All right. Next, Shini, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Shini. I'm currently a Term 5 student and I'm doing the robotics track. I'm also the Term 5 pillar rep for EPD. Yeah, so that's a...
And in addition to Andrew and Shini, I will also be joining this panel as a student. Once again, hi everyone, my name is JJ. I am an EPD senior in Term 7, and my focus track is in Industry 4.0. Maybe I can start this sharing with students by directing a question to Shini, our Term 5 pillar rep. Can I also invite you to jump in and answer this question as well, Andrew, later on? Shini, what did you enjoy most about the EPD curriculum, and what do you think made it special for you?
I think so far, having gone through 2 terms of EPD, my favorite part is also my least favorite part, and that is the projects, because everyone knows project means you have to work with many different people, and it also means sleepless nights, that's for sure. And that's where all the headache comes in, doing your project, ideating, trying to make everything perfect, and all the way up till the exhibition when you're trying to do up your project. It can cause such a headache, because you're trying to make it perfect, right? But that's also my favorite part, because that project is an avenue for us to translate what we learn in the classroom to something that's real life. So we don't only just learn the theory, but also how we can apply it to the projects that we want to do. And at the end of it, when we look back on the projects and how far we've come, that sense of achievement is just unparalleled.
Shini, I really agree with you. I think for me, one thing I learned over my time in SUTD is that as an engineer, it's not just about the knowledge you have, but knowing how to take that knowledge to solve real-world problems. And I find that SUTD taught me to do that really well, which is one of the greatest takeaways, and I guess one of the favorite things about the EPD and SUTD curriculum as a whole. Maybe we can get our alumni who has been in industry for a couple of years. Andrew, could you share with us what do you find most enjoyable about the EPD curriculum, and what do you think made it special for you?
Okay, so for myself, right, so I graduated from Singapore Poly, so just a bit of background there. And I, from Poly, have to go to Army. Then when you go to uni, firstly, when you go through Army already, you forget a lot of stuff. So I think one of the key things in SUTD is that the accessibility to the professors, that is one of the things that I think is crucial, is key to one of I guess, how I learn a lot from SUTD curriculum. You can ask any students here also, they will clarify and confirm this as well, that the professor's doors are always open. It's one of the good things and one of the greatest things, because as a weak student, right, previously, I confess I'm a weak student, being able to access the professors is one of the best things, because I get to see them and ask them lots of questions. So like, for example, if I'm weak in this particular subject, I think chemistry, I find my chem prof quite a lot also, and being able to get them and talk to them, and they spend hours with me trying to teach me and explain to me, why is it this way, why is it that way, and that way I know that, I feel wanted here, I feel like I'm needed here, and because of this, I guess this is one reason why when I graduated also, I've always ensured that I always accessible to others also, like to ensure that I can also help others as and when I can as well. Yeah, so I guess that's one of the good things that I've learned from the professors here also.
I can verify and confirm what you have said. I definitely agree that the professors here are really amazing. They're really accessible, easily to connect with. And I think this sums it up as the community in SUTD is something that I really enjoy. Not only the professors, but the students that you work with, the teammates that you work with. I can just recall, I was working on a project last week, and there was a part I needed at 11:30 at night. Who will be awake at 11:30? I texted one of my course mates, and he was awake, and he was willing to come down from his block to pass me the part that I needed. So that was, something I think you only see here in SUTD. Maybe here's another question for you, Shini. What do you think is the most challenging thing you encountered in your time in EPD so far?
I think the most difficult thing is trying to stay awake. Recently, same as JJ, we had a project, first review, and because they put 2 projects together, so it was on the same day for 2 different reviews, and I think my group started quite late because we were stuck on the ideation part. So it was a 1-day mad rush. We didn't sleep all the way until the next morning, until the review time, so it was like 11 a.m. And yeah, it was just coffee for days. So I think that's the most difficult part, trying to adjust your sleep schedule. But other than that, the experience was really fun, staying up with your friends, talking, and just going through hard times together. You form memories that you will look back on.
I think for me, the most challenging part of being in EPD is also not only EPD, but in SUT in general, is really balancing between all the multiple projects that you have to do. I think maybe I need the faculty to verify this, but I believe that all our modules here in SUTD have at least 1 project per semester, at least 1. That means that if you take 4 modules in a semester, that's at least 4 projects. And because of that, you spend a lot of time on these projects. And while the outcome of it is very fruitful, as you guys say, it's really about applying the knowledge we have, and you see what you learn come to fruition, and there's a sense of achievement in that. It takes up a lot of time to take these things from idea to reality. So I guess that's the biggest challenge you have to overcome. But once I think you learn to overcome it, you really become a person who's much more equipped to really turn things from idea to reality quickly, efficiently, and do it well in a short period of time. So I think that's a great life skill, especially as an engineer.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot help but agree with JJ. With every one of these projects, your faculty also spend countless sleepless nights grading them. Right? So, I mean, just to share, right, we kind of, just in case it gives you the impression, we don't leave them alone and they don't just sink and swim and die out there. Now, I think, wherever we can, we would also try to provide, our guidance where possible. But certainly, I think we are together in the journey because, just to share, right, the whole of last year through the entire pandemic, I think because of the pandemic, we started, amongst the faculty members with the students, almost an on-demand office hours because we are always online. Right? So whenever they have a question, they go on to, let's say, Microsoft Teams, and suddenly I find myself in a consultation session, right? But at the end of the day, I think it has been rewarding. For us, it means more than just having projects on display here, all right? I think it was important for us to see students applying what you have learned. That was, at the end of the day, why we send them through all these torturous, sleepless nights.
So I like to add on. I think we take pride in stretching our students' learning abilities. I mean, having said that, though, I think the project-intensive curriculum in SUTD is unique. I mean, out there in the industries, not only the industry are looking for graduates who are prepared fundamentally on some of the basics in let's say in engineering, but the ability to understand problem framing and the process and the skills you learn in how do you then translate, analyze that problem in your design process and coming up with solution. And that is not enough. We don't stop there because the student would then have to build a prototype to prove that the idea or the concept or the design concept works. And all of these are actually skills industry look for. So I think it's a worthwhile learning journey here.
I was listening to our our SUTD president, Professor Chong's speech yesterday, and he was mentioning about how SUTD is shifting the paradigm. You know, traditional universities typically focus on a knowledge-based intensive curriculum, but SUTD is shifting the paradigm to a more holistic curriculum that not only includes knowledge-based, but skills and attitude-based curriculum as well. And I think what we just shared really is in line with that direction and that perspective as a whole. Maybe we can shift some attention to our alumni. Andrew, I remember that you were in your final year when I first joined SUTD, and I recall, you know, being mesmerized by all the cool, interesting projects that were being made and shown during the Capstone Showcase back in 2017. As an alumni that has been in the industry for a couple of years, could you share with us some of the skills you think that EPD and SUTD has imparted to you that helped set you apart from those who might have graduated from other universities?
Okay, very difficult question here. Okay. Yeah, so maybe I'll take it a step back first, because I think the professors were talking about it, and I'd like to continue on to it also. So I think there wasn't 4 projects per term. I think it's way more than that. It's actually, I believe it can be as much as 8 projects a term. So 8 projects, let's take it across 8 terms, okay? So there's going to be 64 projects. That's bare minimum, okay? Bare minimum, 64. So 64 projects. The thing is that, yes, we had to go through the entire design phase, from understanding the users, understanding what they want, the user conceptualization, the service design, trying to understand the user experience as well. You have to go through that entire process across all the different kind of projects. So imagine doing it 64 times. So the thing is that as you get to do it from the very beginning, you start to get better at it. And when the moment you reach capstone, that's your final year project, that's the time where you have to wow the industry, because you have to work together with an industry partner. So for myself, we work together with Rolls-Royce. So we had to work together with Rolls-Royce and design a product for them. And they were mesmerized by it, I guess, because I did get good grades out of it. Yeah, so the thing is that the key concept is that the number of projects that we have done not only helped me to understand my life better in SUTD, but when you start to graduate, when you graduate already, you did 64 projects, you have 64 projects in your back pocket, you go to work. When your bosses start to throw projects at you, you'll be like, okay, let's take it. I'm okay with taking it, I'm fine. Reason being, because I've already done 64 projects in my hand before that already. So they throw to you a project, you'll be like, oh, can I take all? So you start taking. Then you realize, hey, actually all this is just like SUTD. I just need to take a project, just work on it. And you start to realize, yes, I've gone through the concept, understanding project timeline, understanding service design, understanding what the user wants. So for myself, I work in GovTech. We work with a lot of citizens. We have to talk to the citizens. We have to find out what they want and try to ideate something for them to ensure that citizens will be able to use the service as well. So yes, with this knowledge of 64 projects, I can safely say, yes, I've done it. I think that was the perfect curriculum, if you ask me. I mean, it's very good curriculum, maybe not perfect. There are things that can be solved, but of course, it's still very good. And yes, I think one key point is that with 64 projects, the thing that I learned the most is resilience. Because yes, there comes sleepless nights, there comes dinners that are so late. But I think doing it with friends, doing it with your peers, it makes things better, I guess. It makes life much better.
Definitely. I think the 64 number is better than GPA number, right?
Yes. Okay, yes. And just to clarify, GPA, I mean, I can safely say I didn't graduate with a very great GPA as well. Yeah, so I think really what the main key point is your project skills, being able to graduate and have all this life skill set ready at the get-go. Because the thing is that previously, when I started doing projects, I didn't understand about project lead times. When I wanted to buy something, right, buy material, I had to wait like 6 weeks. This is only, during SUTD, I know that, oh, if I want to buy this, right, I must be 6 weeks before that to buy this item. Yeah, and I think when you go to work, you realize that, yes, all this lead time you need to remember also. Yeah.
And I think your 64 is just a 64 in-class projects, not counting the out-of-class projects, including designing the projects for your future incoming students in EPD. Yeah.
You know, I think at some point, Andrew, you said that you were a weak student in SUT. I don't remember you being one of those. I remember you being one of those like students that everyone kind of looks up to. And a quick disclaimer to everyone here: 64 projects is unique to Andrew. I don't think I did a lot of projects, but 64 is a nice number. You know, on that note, when you talk about working and employment in GovTech, I'm looking for employment this year. I'm in the midst of my job search as I'm graduating this year. And I find that as I apply for jobs, a lot of the employers are actually not just looking at the grades, but they are looking at the skill sets that we have. And I'm actually really glad that in my time in SUTD, through the projects that I worked on, I managed to acquire skills that it appears the employers seem to appreciate. So I kind of enjoyed that a lot as well. I think we have answered quite a few questions, and maybe now we would like to answer some of your questions. So from the audience, for our EPD faculty, students, and alumni on this panel, please feel free to jump in at any point to answer these questions, and let's give the audience the answers that they are looking for. Let's see, what questions do we have from the floor? Okay, one is up. Let's see. What career prospects do EPD graduates have, and what kind of skill sets do the EPD students learn throughout their study? That's a great question. Maybe we can. Anyone like to start?
I think I can get started first, and maybe the part about the skill sets could be elaborated by the alumni students or students. But broadly speaking, in terms of career prospects, it has been quite diverse. All right. So far, we have students going through basically, working for the government in engineering firms. We also have students who went on to, let's say, starting their own so-called startups. Personally, I think they're also doing really well. Likewise, there are some who has also shifted out to work, let's say, in the engineering consultant firms. So it's really quite broad. I think what is most important is, instead, I think we used to ask our students, what type of careers are you looking for, right? Because I think in EPD, what we aspire to do is to actually, hopefully try to match you to find that correct position that you are looking for. So just to share, just in the last year, I think we had at least 2 different virtual career fairs at EPD where we invited industries from a whole host of different areas, from healthcare, basically electrical engineering, basically metrology spaces, design firms like Dyson. So it's quite broad because it's in part related to our curriculum being quite broad in itself too. So basically it prepares them, to be able to fulfill the different requirements, right? So, but the thing is, all these things, when does it get started? Actually, it gets started in terms of preparation as soon as their internship. Right, so that is when we first exposing the students to the various opportunities that that will be available to them, where I think it's important for the students to actually discover what exactly are you looking for, right? So that is one thing I can share. All right, in terms of the skill sets, it's quite diverse. All right, but I think it's beyond looking for the technical ability in the curriculum. It is also looking at their soft skills. Their ability to communicate between basically their peers of different groups, communicate with industry players, communicate with, I would say, the faculty members as well, all right, in terms of what they are trying to achieve. So broadly, I think it's quite broad. If anyone wants to add, feel free to add. Oh, I forgot to mention, yes, quite a number of them also went on to do graduate studies, not just locally, but at really top-tier colleges, whether in Switzerland or US, all right? So quite broad in that sense. Anything from anyone?
I think I'll definitely agree with Mei Chi in terms of soft skills such as communication, because like we said, every project consists of different number of people and different groups of people, in fact, different pillars, sometimes in the same pillar, but different tracks. So definitely we have to learn to communicate with such people. And I think some of the more technical skills will probably be like CADing, coding, and sourcing for materials ahead of time, and planning, time management as well, because all these are very important to a project, and none of it is any less important. Yeah.
I can also add on to that as well. So, first of all, I'm actually in the job hunt this year, and on top of that, I'm also concurrently pursuing my master's here in SUTD. So I took an additional year compared to my peers. So most of my peers, my batchmates, have already graduated from SUTD and they are in the industry. And I find that they are in the industry in a wide different range of fields. There are those in traditional engineering firms like Hope Technique, ST, Rolls-Royce, HP, right? And then there are those who have diverged, taken the engineering degree, which is very versatile, and gone on to do other roles such as product management, as Andrew has done in GovTech, and in other industries like Shopee, where you're doing e-commerce. So the range is really quite diverse, and I think SUTD not only prepares us technically to go into an engineering role, but provides us with the relevant skill sets that are related to the project to go into other roles like project management, or even other advisory, analytical roles as well.
Perhaps I can add a few more to the skill set. What we try to do is basically to reflect what is required in the industry, so that when you go out there, from day one, you can actually contribute. Don't have to go through long periods of orientation. And I believe a few of these skill sets would include critical thinking. So I think we have met quite a fair bit of industry captains, and they always tell us that our graduates stand out. They are quite different from other AU graduates. And when given a problem or a project, they don't just do the project. They actually ask a lot of questions. Whether is this the right project in the first place? Forming the right objectives, doing the right thing. So critical thinking is a very essential part. And a lot of things we do, we also take it from a holistic point of view. We don't just do a technical problem. We look at how it affects the society. I think sustainability is always on the back of their mind. So that is also very important that we impart that to our students. And last but not least, I think you talk about communications. It's very important to collaborate. And that's why when you do projects, it's never single, right? We don't believe in silos. We believe in working together. And that's where you get different people. We all know we are all different. We have different characters. We have different personality. And whether you like the person or not, you have to work as a team. And it's the same out there in the industry. When you go out there, you also have to work. And then in terms of career prospects, I think they talk about industry. You can go government and further studies. There's one more category. Maybe a track less taken by students, entrepreneurship. Some of you may have a slant towards commercialization. Perhaps the final year project you do or Europe that you have taken could result in commercialization. And hopefully you can become the next Steve Jobs. Don't forget us when you become one. So that's another possibility as well in terms of career prospect.
All right. Hopefully we have answered this question. I think we shared quite a bit across the board. Maybe we can move on to another question. All right. So we have this question. Is designing a product with engineering elements such as smartwatches or Dyson vacuums, etc., which both design and engineering are both engineering and design heavy, a part of the EPD course?
Okay, I think, the short, simple answer to this is most definitely yes. As a matter of fact, we were just sharing about this part earlier. So, every year is a bit different. Every year in the design classes, we are designing different aspects. So maybe later, Shinyi can share a little bit more about the design class that they just finished the first review, where they are actually looking at, for example, designing automated autonomous systems for healthcare, right? In an aging society, for example. So Shinyi, would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, definitely. So basically for what I'm doing right now in my design class, the theme for it is productivity at home or aging population. And both must include an autonomous system, which is what Meichi said. And I think it is quite hard. Yeah, so with the above mentioned, I would say it's quite similar to what we are doing right now. And this theme that I mentioned actually changes every year. So you get to see different types of products every year created by students. And it really challenges us to think outside the box, because right now we look into the market and there's so many things out there that has already been created. But how do we make it better? How do we make it such that it is more convenient for the user? It makes the world a better place, in that sense. And I think that is the difficult part, and that is the part that pushes the students to have this critical thinking and design thinking that will be useful in the workforce.
Yeah, and these projects, again, to emphasize, it's not repeated. So I think Andrew was designing, rolling robots. JJ, were you doing, soft robotics? Can't remember. But essentially, it always changes, but definitely including different elements. And it's not just in that one class, throughout all the different classes, there'll be different aspects. I think Prof. Chua, you were mentioning that in your 3D printing class, Dyson is actually setting the design challenge, right?
Yes, indeed, they are. So they have decided to provide a problem statement to 3D print a musical instrument. And they will give an award to the best prize. So I think you are in the class, right? So, you have a chance to win that prize.
Yep, so I think that should address the question.
I think that addresses the question pretty well. And we have another question up on the board. So what sort of career or industry can I embark in if I go with the Beyond Industry 4.0 track in EPD?
All right, I suppose I have to answer. Okay, a very diversified range of industries. So even before we proposed this about 2 years ago, I met more than 20 to 30 companies, and we have quite a bit of sponsorship as well. These companies are coming in because they strongly endorse the program. They are giving exchange awards so that students can go overseas. Hopefully next year they can start to travel, and they can spend internship at these companies. So I can see the partnership of companies, meaning that these companies actually want a student that is ready-made for their company. So a student who goes through this track will actually not only learn the curriculum, but actually do an internship with these companies, and plus an exchange overseas. So by the time they finish, it was just nice for the company to take them on. So what are these companies we have engaged? They are in aerospace, manufacturing, materials company like Evonik, software like Autodesk, they do CAD. We have companies like Mayban, which is a local large company. They do things like the nasal swabs. They actually injection molded the nasal swabs. That's the one that's being used in Singapore. They are now doing antigens. In the past, they've done sleep apnea machine, quite a fair bit of things in healthcare. The other company that's coming big time with us for this Industry 4.0 is Makino. Traditionally, a company that does machine tools, mainly subtractive, but they have also gone into 3D printing recently. They have developed their own 3D printer. So they were also very interested in our program and has provided quite a number of awards. So you can see the industries are very wide. Not only in industry, but also for DSTA, DSO, the government-related plus A-star institutes. So I see that there will be a lot of demand for our graduates. In fact, I think the first batch will probably spoiled for choice. They will probably have many, many choices. I hope I've given you the answers to this question.
I think let me add on a little bit as well. As a student who is in the Industry 4.0 track, as a student in that track, I find that the career paths are also quite diverse. I can consider areas such as product management, which is what I'm focusing on right now, or even areas like supply chain, smart manufacturing, tech advisory. There's so many options, to be honest. Yeah. So the next question we have on the board is, what is a self-directed track in EPD?
So if you don't mind, I will address it a little bit. Again, I welcome the students to share a bit more. So the intent of the self-directed track when we crafted it was to allow students to design your own curriculum, to pursue a niche area to be exact, that is perhaps not offered formally within the curriculum, like your Beyond Industry 4.0. So let me give an example. Say you are a student who's very interested in material science, for sustainable, basically products. It is not officially a track, but this is something you're truly passionate about. Well, then is when I would say, talk to your faculty mentors, and we would tell you it is possible for you to craft a curriculum that allows you to really develop this area of interest, all right, so that you can really, eventually graduate, as well as to develop this so-called niche interest and pursue a career in that area, right? So it is to give more flexibility, rather than just looking at these, 6 specialized areas. So I think it is actually, from my understanding, a very popular track among students who find that, yeah, you know, I'm not very sure if I want to be your, you know, traditional, very hardcore, you know, mechanical engineer kind of stuff, because I find myself interested in a bit of mechanical engineering, but at the same time, very keen on the robotics area, right? And they are like, where will I be, you know, but you know, they will gradually discover themselves, and they find that they take a combination of these different subjects. Because at the end of the day, we rather, you know, students actually end up taking subjects that they be interested in, that they can see that will help them in their future careers. So I think because of that, I think even before the Industry 4.0 track was around, we had students who end up taking a combination of classes, kind of like your Beyond Industry 4.0 track, all right? And actually, I think I know of at least one student who's actively in that area right now, I think in McKinsey, all right, as a consultant in this area. So would you guys like to add anything? Andrew, JJ?
I would like to add a couple to what Prof. Michi has said. That's because I've mentored a few students in self-directed track. Two of them were particularly interested in the micro and nanotechnology topic. And one of them eventually started a company to commercialize nanotechnology, one of its kind in Singapore. And another one graduated and pursued her research in micro and nano topic as well. So these are some specific example, I guess other example from what Michi has shared in terms of self-directed track.
I think, yep. So maybe we can look at the next question. What is the difference between EPD and DAI in terms of design? Wow, this is a difficult question. Maybe one of the professors can take a whack at this question.
Okay, I don't think, okay, let's take a step back and decouple this question a little bit. Because I think where we are a bit troubled, at least where I'm a bit troubled, is there's really two components to this question, right? First, what is the difference in the program between EPD and DAI? And then, you know, if there is any difference in terms of design. Now, let's take the first one, right? Right now in SUTD, we have different pillars. In each of these pillars, we have different design aspects, because there is going to be different design guidelines, requirements, you know, principles that has to be so-called exercised in order to create, for example, a new product, a new software, or a new system. All right, so these will be the different design aspects. But at the same time, there is also commonalities in all these different so-called design stuff. For example, the design thinking stuff. That's why many students in the first year, they will take a common design thinking class. The difference between EPD and DAI, well, broadly speaking, EPD looks at so-called the creation, the design, and development of products, physical products, you know, products that you hold in your hands. But we will look at all the different aspects from, let's say, the software systems that control a drone, for example, to, let's say, you know, the actual mechanism that allows the drone to be balanced when it is being flown in the air. So that is what EPD is about. Whereas in terms of design and AI, you know, I think perhaps the faculty in design and AI can elaborate further, but from my understanding, it is more specific towards looking at so-called the training the students to use AI more intensively towards creating design of products, for example, right? So it's more of an AI-centric kind of program, all right? In that sense, whereas EPD, you know, the focus, the center point is really about the products and what else is needed towards creating that so-called next generation, either cyber physical product or let's say innovative products. Okay, so hopefully that addresses your question a little bit. Yeah, anyone has anything to add?
I think you has kind of summarized it fairly well. EPD is obviously very product engineering oriented, and as I said earlier, AIs are software tools, techniques that are used that complement traditional engineering approaches or technologies. Design in AI, however, it's the infusion of design methodology, design thinking in the discipline of AI. So I guess that hopefully summarizes it.
Next question we have is an interesting question as well. Do I need to be creative or artistic to enroll into SUTD? And maybe I can just take your answer to that question. Maybe you can ask from the student's perspective as well, whether or not you guys had to be creative or artistic to enroll into EPD. I think the general answer is no, you don't have to be creative or artistic. But it's definitely a bonus. I think when you look at design as a whole, and when we mention design in the EPD context and engineering context, it's about ensuring that the solution that you create and come up with is the best solution that you can create for users. And that something that you engineer ultimately is something that the users can use well and solves their problem to the best of their engineering capability. Do you need to be creative? It helps to be creative because when you come up with different solutions and consider different options for the solutions, you need to be creative to think of these ideas. However, through our curriculum, there are also design frameworks that help guide you through this process. So I guess in that sense, it develops your creativity or guides you along and helps you make structured decisions. So in that sense, creativity is a plus, but if you are someone who's, let's say, like not so artistic, you're not great with like drawing or colors, then it's not a huge thing in EPD.
Yeah, I think so. You don't need to be creative, but it definitely helps, like I said, thinking out of the box. But I think at the end of the day, design thinking is not so much being creative, but rather, I think you need to be more logical, thinking about how it should be done, each step of the way, and I think that's more important. And like we said, a lot of it is group work, so if you're not the creative one, someone else will be the creative one, so don't worry too much about it, yeah?
No, but that's being said, I think creativity nowadays, I don't think there's an industry where being creativity is not a bonus. Okay. I don't think there's a job where you say, there isn't an interview where you go into and say, you can't say that I'm a creative person and that's not a bonus. I think everyone appreciates someone who's creative because creative people bring new and interesting solutions to the table. And on top of that, I think SUTD trains you to be creative, more creative over time through the way in which our curriculum is structured. So hopefully that answers this question pretty well.
I think Andrew has something.
Okay, Andrew, actually, our EPD alumni, Andrew, has something to add for that question.
Okay, so maybe I will give a bit of explanation there, okay? But I'm just going to use a website because a website is easier to explain. So, right, for example, if you design a website and you wanted to know where to put this button, the thing is that when you start off, you just put the button there. You talk to a few people and you ask them, okay, actually this button put here very good. But after a while, you start to test on your users, the people on the ground. Then you realize that, hey, actually this button you put here doesn't make sense, because like when you go through the process flow, they realize that this button doesn't work here. So that's when you use data to confirm. Because I think when it comes to creativity, when you start off, you start to test out. But as you start to, you have to infuse data from the outside world also, and then start to realize that actually people don't like to press the button here, they rather press the button somewhere else. So there are other kind of technologies that help you to figure out like where is the best place to put this button. So that's more data-centric. But for user experience, I guess that's also one way. You have to test a lot on the users, sit down with them and just keep testing.
So I guess if those who ask this question, if you are doubting your self-creativity, come to SUTD. It can be taught.
Okay, next question we have is, how and when do we choose our tracks? I think this is definitely directed at our faculty here.
Okay. Yeah, so first thing, you do not even choose your pillar upon admissions to SUTD, right? You're only going to choose your pillar at the end of 3 terms of classes. So you are going to make what we personally really hope an informed choice. Because during your first 3 terms, you'll be exposed to different events, all right? We will have pillar outreach events to share with you what the pillars are really doing. You will have opportunities to interact with, your peers, your seniors, to find out more about these pillars. But most of all, I encourage every student to consider taking on more projects, like your Europe projects, or even the competitions, to really discover what do you really like? Which pillar do you think interests you the most? after entering into the pillars at the end of term 3 or choosing a pillars at the end of term 3, you will be again, guided towards selecting your tracks, I think at the end of term 4 or 5, all right? So not so soon. And one thing I always emphasize to the students is you're not going to make these choices yourself, all right? You will have faculty mentors assigned to you. You can also, again, turn to your peers. There's a huge peer support group. I think recently they started a Telegram page where basically you could ask seniors about, what do they think about a particular track, where they connect to alumni to understand more about the career options, right? So again, you will make these track choices somewhere around the midpoint of your university career. But I think I emphasize the key thing is you're not going to do it alone. In fact, I think the process of selecting your tracks and completing that form is actually done by the faculty. All right, so even that admin work, you don't have to worry about that.
To add on, I think one thing I really like about SUTD as a whole is that you really get to explore and go with your passion. That being said, as Meiji mentioned, in the first year, you don't have to select what pillar you have to go into. So you have your first year to explore and figure out what one pillar you pick. And even within the pillar, and SUT will definitely give you the pillar of your choice, regardless of grade or background. As long as you pick to go at a particular pillar, SUT will give it to you. And once you are in that pillar, you have some time to explore which track you want to go into. And as you go along, you are even able to change that track if you desire to do so. As long as you hit the requirements of that track, you're able to change. I can give an example. I was initially in the mechanical engineering track, and within the last year, SUTD introduced the new Industry 4.0 track. So I thought that this was more appropriate for my career direction, and I made the change. And SUTD was really supportive of that. So that's something I really appreciate. So I think we've answered this question pretty well. Okay, our next question is, what type of careers can I go into if I enroll into healthcare engineering design in EPD? That's a great question.
Okay, I'll take these questions. I think it's, again, a fairly wide range of potential career. Obviously, the medtech industries, as in industries who design, produces devices, solutions for either hospital, for personal health kind of product. Some of our students are also very closely intern in hospitals. So hospital is another avenue for career. And obviously, the dual NUS path, it's a path that leads you to medical school, and not forget research in these in the healthcare topics too. So I think generally, medtech industries, hospitals, healthcare research institutions are these broad kind of category of industry that you go to.
Thank you so much, Prof. Hong Yi. I think with that, we just have been signaled that we have now come to the end of the EPD Pillar Live Talk. For more information, please feel free to visit our EPD or SUTD websites. I hope that we have managed to provide some valuable insights on the EPD Pillar, and we really look forward to seeing many of you here in SUTD in the near future. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, and have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.